243-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay, call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida, grab a pen of sundown. 184-361-RICK. That's 184-361-7425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy stay fine. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RICK. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. Is a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and giving you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers who are responsible for their content and do not reflect the opinions of N-Touch Radio or its staff.
Yeah, I got to bring my stand.
Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay. Welcome to another phenomenal episode of the Stay Woke Show with myself, DR.Michelle Williams, and Walter Dunn, where, we bring a real reality to the Tampa Bay area, to the state of Florida, to the county of Hillsborough. Joining us this morning in the studio, we have Public Defender candidate Miss Lisa McLean, who is running for one of the highest offices in the state of Florida, the Hillsborough County Public Defender's Office. Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good morning, Michelle. I'm well.
Okay, come just a little bit closer for us, Lisa, with this microphone, because we want to make sure that, I don't want nobody saying, well, I thought she said this. No, this is what she did say. So we're going to bring her close to the mic. Lisa, Walter, and we welcome you. Thank you for answering the clarion call. We met at Tea and Conversation, and you opened up the floor with some fire as a candidate. First time I've ever seen you run. First time, meeting you. Yeah. A few weeks ago, prior to the Tea and Conversation, we had met again at Tea and Conversation. Yeah. But who is Lisa McLean? Who is Lisa? Because everybody, people when I put the call out that you were going to be on the show this morning, everybody's like, "Well, I don't know her. I seen her at Tea and Conversation, but we don't know her." So everybody wants to know, Lisa, where you come from, what have you done, how do you feel that you can change the public defender's office, and what are your goals that you want to set? Not only because, my grandfather used to always say, one hand washes the other, but both hands washes the face. So, and that's the type of relationship that we have to have as community leaders with political candidates and potentially elected officials. One hand washes the other and both hands washes the face. So, Lisa McLean, you have the floor.
So, just to take off on what you said, communication is so important.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of the public servants in Hillsborough County don't have the level of communication that they need to have with the people, with the community. So that's something that I want to change and something that's really important to me. But who am I? I was born down south in Hollywood, so I'm a native Floridian. Mm-hmm. I've been in the criminal justice system since 1990. I started as an intern when I was still at Stetson. And I loved that. I just loved it.
USF grad?
I am a USF grad. Yeah, I'm a local girl. I went to Oldsmar Christian School. That's where I graduated from high school. Mm-hmm. Then I went to St. Pete College, which was St. Pete Junior College at the time. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Mm-hmm. So my parents really didn't know a whole lot about how to make all that happen. And the world was a much different place as far as applying for colleges and things like that. And it seemed to make sense for me to stay home and continue to help my parents. My father was trying to run a business that was struggling. So I continued to work with him as often as I could and go to school. I was actually going to high school and junior college at the same time. Once I finished that, that's when I went on to USF, because again, I wanted to stay local. I wanted to stay, close with my family. My father had cancer, so, it was important for us to stay close. He passed in, I was a young prosecutor at the time that he passed, and my parents were so proud of the work that I was doing, and I enjoyed that work. But politics has a way of changing your plan. And the state attorney for whom I worked was not reelected, and I wasn't comfortable working with the incoming state attorney. And thankfully, Julie Holt, the brand new public defender, had just been elected in 1992, agreed to take a chance on me. And I literally put my things in a cart and walked down to the other end of the hall to begin my work as a criminal defense lawyer. It was a little scary at first, something new and different, but that's when I really knew that I'd found my calling. And I really, really enjoyed working with the people and working with, the indigent people in Hillsborough County that can't afford to hire a lawyer. Or can't afford to hire a private attorney. Let me be very clear about something. It's always bothered me, even when I was a young prosecutor, that so many in the community think that public defenders aren't real lawyers, that they're somehow interns, or that they're just not real lawyers. And I go out of my way to correct that assumption, because it's just crazy to me. I mean, the reality is that a lot of people that work at the public defender's office, not just lawyers, but also legal assistants and investigators, they do that work because it's important to them. There's a lot of people in law school that when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, what they're going to tell you is, I want to be a public defender. I want to serve the people. So, that kind of perception that people have, that lawyers are there because they couldn't get a job anywhere else, or that they don't know what they're doing. Certainly young lawyers on either side in the criminal justice system have a lot of growing to do, and that's an important thing that I think that historically our public defender's office has been pretty good at the training thing, but I've seen a pretty significant drop off recently, and it's something I'm concerned about, and something that I think that needs to be improved upon. This idea of training, making sure that when those kids, and a lot of them are, they feel like, well, I mean, I have children of my own now that are 22 and 24. So, I've recognized over the years that these people that I feel are my colleagues, that, they're considerably younger than I am. But this training thing is so important, right? I mean, when you send these people into the courtroom that are on the front lines of defending the Constitution every day and ensuring that the state attorney is held to their burden, and that you're watching for anomalies, or worse yet, inappropriate behavior on the part of either the state or law enforcement. These kids have got to be trained and know how to handle those situations, because sometimes they are the only person that's standing between
somebody and freedom.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy that you led me up to my question with you, because right now we have a running saying in the Tampa Bay area that the state attorney's office, they're the victors. They have a 98% conviction rate, with 2% just coming from Ms. Holt's office. And this community, especially the Black community and the Hispanic community, we have lost hope in the public defender's office. So, Lisa, you have not only this huge platform, you have the listening audience that's listening to us now via the internet. So we want to know, you as a potential front runner for this position, if a Republican doesn't jump into this race, okay, between you and Rocky Brancato, okay, being the Democrats, how are you going to restore the hope, the audacity of hope back into the community where we've lost faith in this office?
That's one of my favorite books, by the way.
Yes, The Audacity of Hope by
One of my
Barack
favorite
Obama.
books. I always get so inspired when I read anything that he's done. Again, a lot of that has to do with who you are as a person. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and it's a personality thing to some extent. I want to be able to inspire young people. I want people to want to come and work in that office. I want young people to want to make a difference every day. Again, that idea of being the person that's standing between, liberty and incarceration potentially for our clients is such a huge deal.
Well, Lisa, I look at it like this. Being a head public defender is a huge task.
Yeah.
No matter who wears the hat.
You're right.
I understand that, and I would not be real if I sit here and say that that's not a huge responsibility. So no matter who's at the quarterback position for our community, we understand that, it is a huge task and a huge burden. When I think about the two candidates who have put their name in the hat that says, I want to take over that torch, the first thing that, I think about is that person bold enough?
Yeah.
Do they have the passion and drive to put their foot in the ground and stand firm when our community, our children are being oppressed, attacked, and miseducated?
Yeah.
Can they stand firm and say, no more of this, and I will change the culture?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the statistics lately, and I get the statistics from the University of South Florida. So when you get the statistics of what's happening in our community, you see busloads of children going through the system. There's a book by Elijah Anderson, Code of the Streets, that I would encourage you to read. It talks about keeping a class of people down.
Yeah.
The class of people that Elijah Anderson is talking about is the minority people, it's the blacks and browns, and it's also the children. Yeah. And when we are sending more children to prison than we are to college, that's a concern for everybody, not just the state or not just the public defenders, but it should be for the state too, because at the end of the day, we want to reduce crime.
Right.
That's our number one goal.
Right.
How do we reduce crime? So, and I understand and I do my homework and research. There are a lot of boards where we got, public defenders sits with the state attorney and the sheriff's department, police department, outreach programs. And there's a lot of boards that we collectively sit on. But, my challenge is when we're sitting on these boards, are we really, are we just going through the formalities, or are we actually coming together collectively to say, how can we reduce crime in our neighborhood? Because when we reduce crime in our neighborhood, everybody wins. Right. Everybody gets the pat on the back. Everybody gets the notoriety. But, so many times it's a me versus you, or state versus the public defenders, or, the sheriff's department versus the public. So many times we get in battles with agencies instead of saying, how can we collectively? Mm-hmm. We all win when we come together. My philosophy.
Yeah.
And I just think about, the next person who's going to take the torch. I think about almost historical or medieval, like they're our fearless leader. And, my support behind my fearless leader means I'm going to go into battle. I'm going to walk into those tough neighborhoods. I'm going to walk into those high schools so we don't see children bringing loaded 9mm guns to school. I'm going to be that person that wants to follow our public defender because I believe in it wholeheartedly. I've been through the justice system. I know how rigorous it can be. I know that the ball can bounce the other way. And then what do you do to recover or be resilient? So I guess in all of that, my question would be is, what type of leadership do you think that you would be able to bring to the office?
It's a balancing act, right? Mm-hmm. That's basically what you just said, because you need someone that's willing to hold the state's feet to the fire, someone that's willing to point out issues with law enforcement, someone who's able to do that in a way that something can get accomplished. In other words, a scorched earth approach where you are constantly, going at it. That's just not who I am. You can ask anyone that I've worked with over the last 30-something years of being in this system in Hillsborough County, that I am a zealous advocate for my client. But at the same time, there's a way to do that, to continue to keep those lines of communication open, so that the next time around, you've got somebody that's going to want to talk to you, that's somebody that's going to want to trust what you're telling them about what you've seen on body cam video, why it's disturbing to you. So, again, it's that idea of balancing being a zealous advocate and still being able to get along on those boards, but not in such a way that, law enforcement thinks that you're the greatest thing ever and you're their candidate. I don't want to be their candidate, okay? Because if I'm their candidate, that sounds like a problem to me. Does it not sound like a problem?
It is. Some people even have pillow talk lovers that's in the police department.
So I
elected official offices, but
it's important to speak truth to power.
Lisa, one of the things that I think about for our community is that we have a very high arrest rate. We have 1.4 million people here in the Tampa Bay community. 34% of that population was arrested last year. We have 1.4 million people in the Tampa Bay community, and the statistics show 34%, 1/3 of our population was arrested last year. Now, as Michelle said earlier, we have a 98% conviction rate in our justice system right now. So Florida has that. So if you get arrested, there's a 98% chance that you're going to walk away with some type of conviction. I can't believe that 1/3 of the population is going to have to face that barrier. Everybody who's arrested is not guilty. There are a lot of people. There are people that are arrested that deserve to be arrested, but there's a lot of people that and I released the statistics on my LinkedIn account that there's 2 people sitting around the courtroom every day waiting a wrongful conviction. That's statistics. That who are those 2 people in your community every day that has to face a justice system that is getting wrongfully done? But instead of attacking numbers and situations or court cases, I look at it in an objective standpoint. How can we change our community as a whole? I love the idea of our public defender's office having kickball games with the sheriff's department. I love the idea of our public defender's office getting involved in the community where they can show their face, because so many, like Michelle said, so many times just the average person thinks that the public defender are overwhelmed, overworked. They just, cases just get stacked on the deck. They can't get through them. They can't do the adequate research and investigation work. But I love the idea that our public defenders are in our community where they are seen. I was 3 weeks ago, I was at a Safe and Sound event, and the state attorney was there. I love the idea that our public officials are accessible.
Yeah.
That you can ask them real questions, you can communicate with them. And I would just hope that, if this is something that you passionately want to do, that you will continue to be accessible to our community.
That question was asked of me last Saturday at Tea and Conversation when we were talking about communication. And one of the women said to me, do you intend on having an open door policy, essentially, with the community? And what I can say to that, because, I've been in private practice now for a long time, since 2003. Doing criminal defense work. And I can only point to my history in that arena of being a mentor to younger lawyers, of having an open door policy in my office all the time. I think that should suggest to people that that's something that's important to me, that I want to always be available. And the follow-up was, well, are you going to do that with the community? And again, I think that history that I have in my own history of being open, that's going to continue. That my cell phone number is on my on my campaign work.
Call me.
I want people. I want to interact. I want to understand. I want to make a difference.
Well, I will be the first one to invite you. I don't know if this was going to come up earlier or later or tomorrow or through text, but Michelle and I are throwing a community event where we're asking all lawyers who, maybe pick up some pro bono work or however the conversation goes. We have a church that has stepped up to the plate, Dominion Life, which is on Florida Avenue. The first week of October 7th, I believe that's the date it's going to be. We're going to, focus around that date. But maybe you take a look at coming out. We're inviting lawyers to come out, and we're inviting the public to come in, and for us to work out with baby to get some questions answered for people who cannot afford legal service or who just need to get a straight answer. So we're going to try to throw an event, and we will welcome you to come out, Lisa, to this event where not only you could help people with practice, but also get involved with our community and show good faith and maybe answer some questions where people can be accessible to you.
Because at least this is the biggest thing is, and you heard it at Tea and Conversation. It came from the founder who founded Tea and Conversation, and it came from people who were there. We see candidates all the time that when they're running for a race, that's when we see them. Everybody pops up. You know, that's why I was saying, you know, who is Lisa? Everybody wants to know where you came from. What are you doing? What community services are you offering? And what type of programs, you know. My biggest thing is Walter and I have had countless talks about programs for the children. That's one thing that he and I definitely agree on, because we advocate for the indigenous community and those who are desolate and those who are low income. What about programs? What type of programs that you think that will be lawful, that are lawful to be implemented inside of the public defender's office, where when you're the public defender, you can advocate for this program in front of the state attorney, in front of the judge, and say, yo, wait a minute, Yokohona, we got a program that, and versus sending this child to prison for 15 years and ruining his or her life, let's put them through this test pilot program first. And then we have to, the big, Walter and I, we always say this, he has a brilliant mind. He's my little legal eagle. You know what I'm saying? He is but he has a brilliant mind when it comes to research and knowledge and putting things together. It's one thing for you to put things pen to paper, but if there are no actions behind it, let's go further. Let's take it biblical. I'm a licensed and ordained minister too. Prayer without works is dead. I can pray all I want to, but that prayer ain't gonna go no higher than the ceiling. I have to get up and work. And that is something that not only are Walter and I putting pen to paper, we put in our actions behind our prayers, and so we can implement these type of programs. And then Walter wrote a good book, How to Navigate Through the Criminal Justice System. That's like literally become my Bible. Like when people call me now, I'm like, hey, look, either you can buy this book and kind of do your own stuff as pro se, or get with Walter, because he's the author and all his information is right there. The book is genius. It's brilliant. But we need that type of information coming from the public defender's office. Yes, I give people their flowers while they're living. There have been some great things that Julianne Holt has done in her office. There has been some great things that Rocky has done in his position as the COO. But to me, it's not enough. Not when there's a 2% failure. You ain't winning. I mean, you just let people take plea deals and probation, and I have a big issue with that. This is not something that I'm just discussing the first time. I've discussed it with Ms. Holt years ago. I've discussed it with Mr. Brancato, just recently at Tea and Conversation. That's my biggest thing is, why is the state attorney and see, you've been on both sides of the aisle. That's like going down the grocery store. That's like going down the grocery store and you forgot the peanut butter, but you got the circle, you got to swing back. So you've been on the side as a prosecutor. You know how that office run. Nothing's changed in that office, Lisa. You know that. I mean, the players have changed. Yeah. The candidates have changed. The elected officials have changed. But the program remains the same. So you said, you know what? Enough of that. And you said something that really, really meant something to me. You said you packed up your banker's box and your cart. Walked right down the corridor where you were given an opportunity and where you were given a chance. And that's what this community needs. People like Walter needs to be inside the public defender's office. People like myself need to be on the outside where I have the platform to do things. See, when you're in a position as high as the public defender's office, you have to have liaisons in the community. That's what I was You have to have liaisons in the community that's going to be able to get the word out. This is what's happening. This case is happening. The community needs to make some noise. The leaders need to come together. The churches need to come together. We don't have that in the audacity of hope. The audacity.
I want, I have, at this point, my plan, and, obviously, best laid plans, they don't always work out. I'm not in that office right this second, okay? I'm a very honest person. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to seem like I'm trying to sell somebody anything or convince anybody of anything.
Right.
Okay? I mean, that's just not who I am. The community liaison thing is such a brilliant idea and something that is so important. I'm not focused on, right now, a lot of, my work is the nitty gritty of litigating cases, taking depots, going to court, trying cases, and I love that work, and I've always loved that work, and I can't imagine having done anything else with my career. But once I step into that role as the public defender, I'm not focused on that work anymore, except in the sense of making sure that the people that work in my office know what they're doing. And that's the training aspect that we already talked about. But that's not going to be my job. My job isn't to jump on a high-profile case. That's not my job. My job is to be an administrator and to be involved in the community and have an understanding of what the people that we serve, what are the needs from the beginning, before they even hit the system, to what do we do when a person is released from prison. You know, one of the things that Diane Hart is really, really focused on, and I think that this is awesome, is this prison reform thing. I mean, some of the work and some of the things that she and I have discussed, it's just really overwhelming. And there's so many people that really have no idea, for example, that there are many prisons in Florida that don't have air conditioning. It's shocking.
There's only 5 prisons in the state of Florida that have air conditioning. Those are private prisons run by GEO.
Yeah, it's just horrifying, frankly, you know. But that idea of being able to deal with what happens when a person is released and how they're reintegrated back into the community. I am not aware of anything that's happening through the public defender's office right now, and I may have missed this, but that's important. That is so important to ensure that this idea that, you know, you're right, public safety, right? Huge issue. You know, we all want to live in safe communities. But one of the ways to ensure that is to make sure that when people are released, when they've paid the price, when they've done their time, that they can find a job, that they can be educated, because our prison system isn't doing anything to make that happen. Absolutely nothing. They may have 30-something years ago, there were more rehabilitation programs within DOC. There's almost nothing now. They're not concerned with ensuring that the community is safe, or that these individuals that have been incarcerated can have a new life, can be productive citizens. They don't care about that. All they care about is punishment. I can remember so many times as a young public defender in front of a judge named Bob Mitchum. We used to call him Preacher Bob. He was a really, really interesting guy. And he used to go out of his way to tell people in his division all the time, this is a punishment state. Okay? We're not interested in rehabilitation. It's a punishment state. You've committed a crime, you've been convicted, you're going to be punished. And, you know, be damned that, you know, either beforehand we tried to keep that from happening, or now that you have done your time, we're just going to throw you away.
Well, here's the thing that I think lawyers in general, whether they're private practice or public servants, they miss that. The research shows that once a person is convicted of a felon, no matter the age group, juvenile on up, their life is scarred.
Sure.
The employment rate for felony-friendly jobs, if you go to Indeed right now, 1%. So the people that are getting released back into our community, what options do they have as a felon? They can't get a job. They can't get housing. They probably have to get government assistance. And then guess what? If nothing shakes out, they go back to crime.
Right.
Because
recidivism is high. The recidivism rate in Florida is high.
Yeah, our recidivism rate is over 70% in Hillsborough County. In Hillsborough County. So if we have the people that, and we're going to go to commercial break, and I just want you guys to call in if you want to, 813-444-9588. Please call in, weigh in with Mrs. McLean. I just want to let you know that, you know, there's a lot of things, and I have this quote, and I often live by this quote, and I respect the work that Diane Hart does, and the prison reform, the Darrell Roussons, the Neil Voles of the world, the Jeff Brandises. You know, these guys focus strictly on prison reform. They've went in, they've changed laws, they've done incredible work. Anybody can put out a forest fire. It takes smart people to prevent them. We can talk about prison reform, but it's better served if we protect our children from going to prison.
Sure.
You know, and I have some incredible ideas on how to do that from a community standpoint, from a public standpoint. We need people in our community, whether they're a liaison or they work for the public defender's office, to believe or have been impacted, so they understand the importance. So we're going to take a commercial break right now. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We'll be back on In Touch News.
Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
Jazz at Miss Connie's House is brought to you by Ray Williams Funeral Home, providing the highest quality, professional, and caring service for your family. Call Jeffrey Rhodes at 813-253-3419. That's 813-253-3419. Or visit him at 301 North Howard Avenue, Tampa, Florida. Ray Williams Funeral Home, for the finest care and quality service.
You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is Attorney Clinton Paris from the Law Office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, Attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the Law Office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay. Welcome back to this phenomenal episode of the Stay Woke Show, where we have political candidate Miss Lisa McLean joining us in the studios this morning. She's running for one of the highest offices here in Hillsborough County in the 13th Circuit as the Public Defender's Office. And Lisa, again, we say welcome. Thank you, Facebook land. I've been listening. I've been seeing. Thank you for the stars. Thank you. Thank you for the stars. But again, anyone has a question, you want to call in, the phone number is 813-444-9588. We understand that some of you all may be shy, but if you ask me a question after I get out the show and I've given you the opportunity to call in to speak to Lisa live and up close, or ask me a question, I'm going to ignore you like like President Biden is ignoring the needs of the American people, okay? Lisa, You have a successful practice. What happens when a political candidate has a practice? What do you do with the practice while you're running? Do you continue to man it, maintain it, and what happens if you win? What happens? How do you? Is there like a hearing that you have to go before the judge to say, Judge, I got to give these clients to another attorney? Like what is it called? I forgot it's like a steward, a good steward over your cases. They have to take on your cases. How does that happen?
So I have a partner
Okay.
in my firm, but we both have plenty of work. And, there have been a lot of discussions about how we're going to make that a smooth transition. I can tell you that it's very important to me to serve my clients to the best of my ability. And I do appreciate that there's probably going to come a time where I'm going to need to take in less clients so that I can focus on the campaign. So I, want it to be clear to the community that those clients' needs always come first. And we will find a way to make that happen. We're looking at the possibility of bringing in another lawyer to transition that lawyer into the practice so that when I am elected, I'm able to move on and my clients will, already be working with a person that they know and that they trust, because that's really important. I mean, trust is so important. And, that's also, frankly, an issue that I see at the public defender's office now, is that there seems to be a lack of trust, both from the clients, because listen, I'm in the courtrooms every day. I see that interaction. But there's also an issue of trust in that office as far as whether or not the lawyers that are working there feel as though they're trusted by, the people that they work with, the people that they work for, to do a good job, to have the ability to make decisions with the client about what's in the best interest of the client. So we're fully prepared to do that. And, I'm going to miss that work, obviously. I'm also, again, honestly, that my firm does very well. And I am blessed with having spent almost no money on advertising since 2006 when I've been since I've had my own firm. And it's word of mouth. It's it's a referral base that is, the people that I've represented over the years, I get callbacks. Okay, I'm not one of those lawyers that they're moving on to the next person next time they get in trouble. That's not what happens. I mean, they're coming back to me because there is that trust, there is that appreciation that, hey, this person really cares about what happens to me. And if I get in trouble again, or if one of my family members gets in trouble, or one of my friends, that's where Lisa. I'm going. That's where I'm going. So, I am gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss that work. But again, at this point in my life, I want to get back to full-time public service and truly make a difference on a much larger scale than what I can do with the 50 or so clients I may have at any given time in my firm.
Well, listen, it looks like we got a call, Lisa, so maybe somebody wants to ask you something from our community. Welcome, caller. What's your question?
Good morning, Stay Woke, and thank you for what you do for our community. For your guest this morning, I'd like to hear what she plans to do for the racial injustice that's coming in our courtrooms. Other cities, such as Philadelphia, has plans that they actively seek to discourage it coming from law enforcement, so I'd like to hear her plans.
Okay.
The state attorney in Philadelphia is an awesome guy, right? And we had a pretty awesome guy as state attorney here too, until about a year ago. And he was pretty concerned with and pretty interested in those racial disparities. And, I think it really had a chilling effect on, in particular, probably prosecutors. We haven't seen DeSantis or anyone else, target public defenders and have them removed, even though they're there as a result of the community and what that community wanted. But, that brings back that idea that we've been discussing, that you've got to be able to balance those things, and I'm not talking about not standing up for what you believe in. I'm talking about figuring out how, because I can't solve the problem of racial inequality or the fact that the majority of the clients that are being served by the public defender's office are black and brown. We all need to work on that. We all need to, again, have an understanding of that idea that you've expressed to me about that pipeline. How do we get started at the beginning of the pipeline to kind of slow that down?
Let me give you one great idea, because I have law enforcement that's in my family, both in the sheriff's department and in the Tampa Police Department. One's a detective, one's high up there. Those law enforcement agencies get statistics every month about crime in the Tampa Bay community. What is on the rise, what is on the downfall, and how they do their policing is, let's just say West Tampa. Say West Tampa has had 47 arrests this month. They police West Tampa more because of what happened the previous month. So law enforcement gets a number of where crime is prevalent at, versus I'm not going to put all my sheriff's department resources in Forest Hills when there's really no crime, maybe one car burglary a month, versus overstaffing in West Tampa because I've had 47 arrests. So what happens is those agencies gets the data, and then because of the data, they police those areas. It would be nice that we start getting those data to our public defender's office and our state attorney's office, so we could use liaisons or people to go in those communities and find out what's going on. Let's talk about it. Let's throw out a community event. Let's get some free food away. Let's bring everybody out and then give them a message, or give them something, or give them hope. So when you don't interact with your community, you don't know what's going on. You don't have no heartbeat on what's really going on in this community, because when you start doing those things, then we start to get a real data or real sense of feel on how we can change things. Yeah. And that's just one of the many ideas I
want to go. Can I just say, because the caller, she alluded to something very, very powerful. And this is something that we see daily, every second, every minute, every hour, every week, every month, every year. We see and we feel the racial injustices that are happening inside the courtroom. And I know I'm a dreamer. And I always believe that if you dream long enough, it starts to manifest through prayers and through work. And I've always been that type of leader. I'm not afraid to get in front of that courthouse with a bullhorn and put the judge's pictures on a poster board and call out the real criminals. I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to call out the public defender's office. I'm not afraid to call out the state attorney's office. But enough is enough. The bleeding won't stop. It just continues. And, Dr. King, a lot of people don't understand. When Dr. King was arrested and he sat in that Birmingham jail, and that letter that he wrote, Dr. King said they will come up with creative suffering. Creative suffering. Every day we see the creativity of this injustice system that's supposed to be blind. The creativity, it has become a blanket injustice toward. And you know what? And before you used to be like, okay, this is happening to too many blacks. This is happening to too many Hispanic. But guess what? I have more white people calling my Ash Shell helpline than I do blacks and Hispanics now. White people catching hell now. But you know what Dr. King said? When white people, when white America realize that their destiny is tied in our destiny, then we'll all see that we need to be progressively moving forward. The caller was right. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. I've only seen one state attorney in my 52 years here. I've only seen one state attorney, state prosecutor, say, Your Honor, I can't prosecute this case. This is not right. And she got fired on the spot. She got fired because her conscience, her conviction hit her in the courtroom. And she looking over the notes because she was past the case. And she's looking over the notes and she was just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. But we don't have enough people with that type of grace, humility, and tenacity inside the courtroom to stand up. Well, that's why I say, what type of programs can we implement as a community and have these programs as the front runners for the Tampa Bay area? Because right now, Lisa, we catching hell. We are truly catching hell coming from that courthouse. We have injustices regarding evictions. We have injustices regarding misdemeanors. Look at the lawyer who just, I was so proud, and I meant to, it's actually on my iPad, but we're using it today. But the lawyer, he is suing the guardian ad litem program for lying, saying that this client was all of this mentally and physically and all of this stuff. And these are the people that have been set in place to take care of and administration their last wills and testaments. These are some of the most vulnerable peoples in society, and we can't even trust the guardian ad litem program to take care of the lady trying to swindle the old man out of all
child support.
That's me, Walt's right there, child support. Walter dropped some nuggets about child support a couple weeks ago, and that's still, I just think about that dollar. I just think about that dollar. So Lisa, you know, we look forward, not just Walter and I, but the community as a whole. You know, iron sharpens iron, and you look like you can be a machete, because I know I'm one. And you know, if we got to clank each other a little bit to sharpen each other. Yeah. I'm looking forward, because I want to always do what's right for this community. Even with Mr. Brancato running, it's the same thing. Iron sharpens iron. I'm gonna clank you. I'm not gonna let.
I look forward to it.
I'm not gonna let any political candidate sit before my platform, this radio program, and lie to us. Because what we have seen, we keep seeing that the state and the justice systems, they keep benefiting everything. Benefit without burdens. They burdened us without, and we being burdened, and we ain't getting no benefits from it. Look at the Black and White Black program. I had attorney Luke LaRoe and Michael Maddox sit right here in these very two same seats back in 2018, where we were begging the litigants to come forward so we can sue the city of Tampa. Only 17 came forward. Out of all of the 2,000 and something people stopped, bicycles turned upside down, put in handcuffs, some arrested, wrongfully arrested, but we only had 17 that came forward where Mr. Maddox and Mr. LaRoe were able to sue the city on their behalf and win big. The Justice Department came in. We don't utilize that office enough. We do not utilize the Justice Department. The Department of Justice sits at 400 North Tampa. We just in the building. Yeah, but we don't utilize the strengths that we have. And it's not like the Department of Justice does not see what's going on. Right. You hovering over, you on the top floor of the building. You hovering over the energy.
Lisa, I want to give you some statistics, because one thing you'll get to know about me is I'm big on statistics.
Yes.
I could be your statistic. You could call me in the middle of the night and say, well, what is the statistic?
Because that's a weekness on my part, okay. So now I know where to go.
You could call me and I got all the statistics. You could call me at 2 a.m. and say, well, what's the statistics, and I can get it for you. Hillsborough County is the third largest community in our state that sends people to prison. Miami-Dade is number 1, Duval County, Jacksonville is number 2, and then it's Hillsborough County number 3. We have 88,000 prisoners in prison right now. We have another over 276,000 people on probation. Hillsborough County contributes in the top 3 of that. And
that's pretty disturbing.
It is.
And I told you we have 1.4 million people living in our community. 34% was arrested last year. Think about those people who are going to go through our justice system right here, 13th Judicial Circuit. And what are their faith going to be when we know that the state of Florida as a whole has a 98% conviction rate? So I'm heavily involved in our community. Not only do I've spoken at USF, I'm got University of Tampa lined up this semester. I got
Benedict, don't forget
Benedict. I got Clemson on the hold. I got UCF coming up. So I like targeting our universities, especially here in our state, to interject my story and what it's like to go through the justice system, how to be resilient and overcome trials and tribulations in your life, and give people motivation. But I want to let you know, Lisa, that I am heavily involved in our Tampa Bay community with our children, because I believe that for our older population, 35 and up, the likelihood of them committing crime is a lot less than under 35. And I know that Hillsborough County and the state of Florida sends more juveniles to prison than any other state in the country. That's a fact.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So my work is to target our youth, 22, 23 and under. So that's why I hit colleges and high schools and stuff of that nature, community events, because I feel a sense of purpose for our community that if I'm able to change that course, I'm able to change the big numbers.
Sure. Yeah, I've been doing this long enough in Hillsborough County to have seen movement in the right direction as far as beginning to gain an understanding of, when I worked for Bill James, which was a long, long time ago, as a young state attorney, that office was so proud of the number of juveniles that they were direct filing on as adults. I mean, it was a badge of honor for them. And thankfully, over the years, I've seen a better understanding of the importance of reaching young people at the right time, a better understanding, not just within the criminal justice system, but in the community as a whole, of mental health and how that impacts decisions that are being made that might lead to criminal activity, drug addiction, those kinds of things that 30-something years ago, people were like, oh, he has a drug problem, that's just an excuse. Well, thank God that there's been an understanding over the years that that's not how that works, and that there's been a great expansion of programs, social services programs, mental health court, veterans treatment court, drug court, those things that didn't exist 30-something years ago, and that frankly, when they were discussed 30-something years ago, people thought it was ridiculous. Why are we cutting, these people, whatever that means, slack in not punishing them? So, but I think that there needs to be a huge expansion of those programs. I've been frustrated in my own practice. I have many clients that have mental health concerns that don't qualify for mental health court because the parameters of getting into mental health court are like tiny. You can't have any prior records. You can't have, listen, there are a lot of people over the years that, I see clients sometimes that have been represented in the past by other lawyers, whether it's someone at the public defender's office or a private lawyer that has missed these issues. And I've said to my client, how is it, have you discussed these things with your how is it that I'm the first person that's picking up on the fact that there are these issues that need to be dealt with, and that we, to some extent, have the benefit of having educated and open-minded young prosecutors that might be willing to listen to those things and be willing to have those discussions about how we can work with a client to get the best possible outcome.
Well, Lisa, the public defender and the state attorney, there is a battle. There's like an underlying current right there. And, the state attorney is just breaded on, your job is built on conviction.
Sure.
Your job is built on conviction. So
if you got a lot of getting.
If I put all these cases in front of you, your job is built on conviction rate. You can't get advancement. You can't get type thing.
That's how we got promoted to felony when I was a misdemeanor prosecutor. You had to have this many trials and this conviction rate.
I had lunch with a state attorney representative, and just a casual conversation, and I was trying to pick her brain on, how does advancement take place in that office? And the candid conversation was, your promotion is built on conviction. so if
you ain't winning, you not getting a big paycheck.
So this is the battle. This is not let's look at the intricate details of the case, or let's look at the evidence, or let's look at the youth or the young or YO status or any of these things that these parameters that may come into place. My job is built on conviction. My job is putting you in jail or putting you in prison into this subject. You can figure it out later. And that's just the truth of it. And our community, our community knows the truth of it.
When you have to figure it out later, you're figuring it out later when you can't get housing, when you can't find a job, when
you figure it out later when that person is in prison.
Well, and then what I'm saying, and when the person figured it out, they know that they done lost. And when they do get out of prison, there is nothing to figure out because they've lost everything.
I mean, and probably already scarred. You know, this is why they create motions 3800 illegal sentence motions and stuff like that. It's for people who are incarcerated, and then lo and behold, they find out they have a legal sentence. Well, they've lost 3-4 years of their life. They've lost their income, employment, housing. Probably their children have been disenfranchised, and this is why we created. But I'm just saying the front end is built on, I can't get a promotion. I can't move from 55,000 to 60 unless my conviction rate is where it needs to be. You know, so I just think a way of combating that creatively is to do the work and be preventative. You know, when you're proactive, you can stop a lot of things from happening. You know, it is my vision one day to see the public defenders maybe go speak at every high school. Have a liaison group that goes and speaks to every high school in the state of in Tampa. There's 32 high schools.
But we just talked about this, Walt. Remember we said we need when Mark Ober was in office, the only thing that he did that I appreciated is that he was going into the school systems and saying, hey, look, 10-20 life, you do this with a pistol, you do this with a gun. We have to bring that back. There's too much gunplay in our communities. Lisa, let me tell you something. I've said this a lot. I am a huge advocate. We just lost Facebook. I'm a huge advocate. No, the battery went dead. I'm a huge advocate for the NRA, the Second Amendment rights. I want you to buy a gun. I want you to lawfully buy a gun.
Lawfully.
I want you to lawfully buy a gun. I want you to know how to use that gun, and I want you to stand up for your rights and know how to defend yourself if you had to stand your ground. But all of this gang banging gunplay, I'm against. You know, Chris Tucker said it best in his movie Money Talks. Guns don't kill people.
Stupid people.
Stupid people with guns kill people. Chris Tucker. What I said? Chris Tucker. What?
That's the one who got slapped.
He's your old Walt God.
But Lisa, I mean, you know, that would be my vision. You know, I think, you know, as a whole, you know, our public offices could do more to integrate into the school system.
I agree.
You know, I think it would be beneficial for us to get in front of them before they think about leaving school and then going to do mischief or crime. For us to do, they have a pep rally every Friday for football games. There's 32 high schools in Hillsborough County. You know, that's a lot, you know, to hit. But, you know, I think if our public service were collaboratory on these efforts, how much crime could we reduce? That's saying, hey, let me tell you, you guys like girls, you like guys, you like tennis shoes, you like video games, iPhones, this and that. State of Florida prison has none of that. And if you get in these type of troubles, you're gonna go through the system and you're gonna get prosecuted and you're gonna go to jail, YO, and if you're lucky. Yeah. If not, you're gonna go get a prison sentence for 5 to 10 years and lose all of this. So when you educate the children, that information, if we seen with children, spreads. I could send one text in a high school and half the high school gets it now. Think about the effect that you would have, public official, maybe liaisons, maybe some people who have been justicely impacted, goes and give them authentic stories of what it's like to go through the justice system, so they don't have to end up like it. So they can be educated not to make the same mistakes or to get entangled into a system that you got to fight hard as hell to get out of. Saving funding and resources and money that your family has to waste, or attorneys, or, you know, where you are in financial destitute.
Right.
Don't reach that level yet. Let's educate them so they can make better decisions. And then guess what? Then for our Hillsborough County, once you attack the high schools, you move on to the colleges.
Guys, you were tuned in to another great episode of the Stay Woke Show with Dr. Michelle Williams and my comrade in true, Mr. Walter Dunn III. Joining us in the studio as we end today's program is Miss Lisa McLean, who's running for the Public Defender's Office here in the 13th Circuit in Hillsborough County. Remember her name. We're going to be interviewing some pretty powerful people this month, Walter, so I look forward to each of you all in your support. But remember, you gotta stay woke. They gonna catch us if we're sleeping.
Lisa, real quick, do you want to tell the people where they can reach you at if they need any questions or comments, your information?
Yes.
Yeah, so my email is lisa@lisaforpublicdefender.com.
All
so
right.
That's an easy one. And my cell phone number is 813-464-0037. Thanks, Michelle, for having me. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning.
We enjoyed it. We enjoyed you.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're out of here.